Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. This is going to be comments episode 2. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video. If you end up liking it, hit the notification bell and leave more comments and we'll do more comments episodes. So we're going to start off with Rachel C Zumaya. Um, Now, this is someone that I've kind of known for a while, not personally, but like I've seen her in like Facebook groups, and she actually sang in that multicultural choir during conference. So I think that's really cool, Rachel, that you're able to do that. She says on my part 2, 10 Lost Tribes, Immigration in Afghanistan's Pashtuns video, that scandalous ad, ugh, I hate this world. So I was so concentrated on the video and like the material that I didn't notice that there was a scandalous ad that was going on. And as soon as I did, I made sure to get that off the screen. So I apologize for that to everybody. uh, that took me by surprise. I guess that's something I'll have to watch out for in the future. And then after that, she says in a second comment on the same video, um, I have thought that Russia and Afghanistan and China are the countries that comprise many of the lost 10 tribes. I do not think they are living on some remote planet, or living in hollow earth with a laughing emoji at the end. I don't either. I'm going to keep an open mind. I think that the chances are very small that that's the case. Um, I don't see it. I could definitely see um, groups like the Pashtuns um, having had maybe some scriptures for a while, and then maybe those scriptures being destroyed once they were conquered by the Muslims. Maybe there's some of those that have survived, kind of like the Lost Sea Scrolls, right? That were eventually found. So we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe those scriptures will come to us if they had any, or if they did have prophets, or even if they are who they believe that they are, which I believe that they are a group of the 10 lost tribes. And the same thing could have happened to um, other groups that went up into Russia or into Europe. Um, they may have kind of maintained their identity for a while, had scriptures, had prophets, and then later uh, apostatized, or those things maybe were taken by the powers that were at the time, like the Catholic Church. We know that they have a library that's restricted that has, it's like a vault, not a vault, but they have a lot of original documentation of many different things throughout history. And who knows, maybe they have some of those scriptures that were written um, by the 10 lost tribes that made their way up into Europe. And I personally right now believe that Europe is probably those northern countries that's referred to. But we're going to do some more study into it. I know that there's the famous quote. I can't remember who it's by. Many of you have mentioned it already. I'm getting to that. I'll do that as part of my 10 Lost Tribes series. Um, so, yeah. And then had a comment here from Afghanistan Watan. So I guess my Afghanistan's Pashtuns video got some additional attention outside of our LDS community here. Um, this person says America and Israel is the same for us Afghans. Okay. Um, I'm not laughing at you if you're. I'm sure you're not watching this. You're probably not one of my subscribers, but I think that this person's referring to when I was talking about how, um, you know, now that the Afghanistan war is over, there's immigrants that are leaving Afghanistan to flee the Taliban, and some are going to Israel, and a lot more are coming to the United States. And I think that the Lord's probably had a hand in that, because who knows how long it's going to take, but maybe through time they'll return to the faith of their fathers. They already believe that they're of Israel, so maybe it won't be too hard for them to convert to Christianity or Judaism, and uh, and ultimately maybe some of them to the church. I guess we'll have to see. Okay, I have some got a comment here on my comments episode 1, the previous comments episode video. This is from Chris Wright. When Joshua wanted to take the promised land, Canaan, he sent out spies, and they reported back with great fear that the Canaanites were mighty men, and they were as grasshoppers to them. Obviously, the Canaanites were giants, at least compared to the Israelites. Yes. And he's talking about, we talked about in the last one that there is some kind of theme in the Bible that has to do with giants, and it seems like it's kind of like they're usually on the bad side. It seems like maybe they might be a corrupted bloodline. Um, we know that Goliath was a giant. He was a Philistine. He lived in the land of Canaan. There it seems to be that there's been some problems with giants. um, I've actually watched a video about that before that really went into that. They did like a deep dive. This was like some other Christian like evangelical channel. I'm gonna have to try and find that again because I don't. I think that that's in the Bible and in the scriptures for a reason. And then he did another comment. Me again, my friend. You just commented on my comment. You just commented on my comment about conspiring men in the last days, and maybe the word of wisdom is a way of protecting ourselves. Of course, I still believe the Lord was putting in measures to protect us, but perhaps did not communicate fully my thoughts. This was not against vaccinations, which I think initially that's how I took the comment to read. This was not against vaccinations, as I've had my 2 vaccinations, and perhaps about 7 months ago, long before the prophet encouraged all in mass to have it. But I think the word of wisdom carries more power than we might realize. Yeah, it definitely does, and there's specific blessings promised at the end of that section, in section 89, that if we obey the word of wisdom, um, you know what? I'm gonna pull it up really quick because I don't want to paraphrase it, but there are specific blessings that are promised if we obey the word of wisdom, and they're interesting. And I think they do have to do with the last days, actually. So, okay, verse 18. And all saints who remember to keep and do these sayings, walking in obedience to the commandments, shall receive health in their navel and marrow in their bones. So obviously there's going to be some blessings in regards to health, which makes sense. But then here's the interesting part. And shall find wisdom and great treasures of knowledge, even hidden treasures. I've heard people before say, like probably in church, that, the word of wisdom has been tied to temple blessings because that's one of the temple interview questions, the temple recommended interview questions. Um, I'm sure it still is. I just had mine like within the last year to renew my recommended. I can't. I know that there's been like changes, and I'm pretty sure that this is still one of the main questions about do you live the word of wisdom. But anyway, that might be what it's referring to. It may mean something else as well. And they shall run and not be weary, and shall walk and not be faint. And then here's the really interesting part that may be like really significant for the last days and the second coming. And I, the Lord, give unto them a promise that the destroying angel shall pass them by, as the children of Israel, and not slay them. So, that's fascinating. And of course, you could just read that as like, of course, if you don't do drugs, then you're not going to be destroyed. Maybe that's the destroying angel. When you take in these substances into your body, then it makes you more prone to sickness and then death. Um, I think that it might go beyond that, though. I think that it may give you more protection than just against those substances. But and there's footnotes here, but I'm not doing a deep dive on this video. But feel free to leave your comments, whatever you may know about these blessings that are associated with the word of wisdom. Um, and then he leaves another comment. Geez, comment hog. I'm just kidding. He says, my final sentence to my previous comment should have been after that after much prayer I felt I would be protected against any evil that might be perpetrated against me through the vaccine. And now on reflection, perhaps because I live the word of wisdom, just my thoughts. Yeah, so maybe because you live the word of wisdom, maybe it's going to protect you if there's any bad things associated with the vaccine. I have my reason to believe that the negative effects may not show up for 2 to 3 to 5 years based on my research, but this is not a deep dive into that. So I appreciate your comments, Chris Wright, all three of them. Let's see, Midge Joe says, I've been enjoying your videos on this subject. This is on my Afghanistan Pashtuns video. You hit on some key info that I will also cover once I gather all the documents, histories, and info together. Great. Yeah. Are you talking about doing like your own YouTube video? I checked out your channel. I didn't see that you're doing like that you have like a channel going on, but if that's what you're referring to, I would highly encourage anybody that's watching this, start up a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, or simply share what you know on channels like this, on Facebook pages and groups, and Discord, and like wherever you like to do your stuff. Put it out there. Okay, and then Samra Starchman. I actually did a video based on her. She's the one that said, I barely started watching this one, and I haven't watched the second one, talking about part 1 and 2, of course. So I don't know if it's addressed. I've always had a theory that the wise men that sought Jesus when they saw the new star were part of the lost tribes. And I did a video on that. That's my part 3 of the 10 Lost Tribes series. I would recommend checking that out because to me, if that's true, it makes a whole lot more sense why wise men from the East would come if they're part of the lost 10 tribes. And again, the Pashtuns have been in Afghanistan for thousands of years. It could have been them before, because Islam didn't come on the scene until the 7th century, and then it started like conquering large portions of the world. So at the time of Christ, they weren't Muslims. They may have still had their beliefs intact and may have had their prophets, and it could be that the wise men themselves were prophets, or maybe one of them were. So it's interesting stuff. It's really interesting. And then, me and her kind of went back and forth, just like talking about that a little bit. And then on her last comment, she said, just finished this one. I think it's both a spiritual gathering and literal gathering. Yeah, it definitely is. COVID has taught me that prophecy is fulfilled in ways I never thought of. One highway I think of is the land bridge from Russia to Alaska. Siberia can hold a lot of unknowns. Yeah, because it's a really large area. But I'm happy with however it's fulfilled. Yeah, and I'm just in that first video. I talk about what the highway may mean, and based on the footnotes, it led me to believe that the highway that it's talking about that Israel would come back on is simply the covenant path, finding the church, getting on the covenant path, and being on a highway of righteousness and returning from their exile among the Gentiles and all the beliefs that have crept in, and all them who have been in apostasy. That's what I tend to think. Could there be a literal highway that comes up, and then the 10 lost tribes walk over on that highway, and then the whole world will be like, whoa, who are these people? Like, that could happen. But I don't know. We'll just see. I'm not going to say one way or another I know there's a lot of YouTubers that are just super confident. They just know so much and they've done so much research and they'll tell you, no, this is what's going to happen. And I'd be careful with that. I try not to do that. Even when we think that we really have it nailed down, we may not. Some things may seem really clear. I think that we got to be careful. I don't think that we should not talk about these things and come up with theories and try and put together some kind of construct in our head and figure it out. But I would just be careful with how much stock you put into your theories and keep an open mind, because we may be wrong. Okay, Cheryl Baldry, thank you so much for replying so quickly on this. Really enjoyed all the information that you found and shared. So interesting. Thank you, Cheryl, for watching my videos, being a subscriber. That was on my part 2, 10 Lost Tribes video. Let's see. And then Samra Starchman again, on my 10 Lost Tribes, the part 2 about the Pashtuns. Just started this one. When we started getting refugees from Afghanistan, I thought of DNC 4568, fleeing to Zion for safety. And then she says, around the 30-minute mark, digital bridges is that similar to highways from the deep? Yeah, I've heard that theory too. It could be that the internet is the highway. It's a way for people that are scattered throughout the world that don't have very much contact with members of the church to find their way, find their path to the church and find the gospel, the restored gospel. Let's check out this scripture that she put, DNC 4568. 45. Scroll on down to 68. Well, let me read. I just saw right here. Let me read a couple of verses before that, starting in 66. And it shall be called the New Jerusalem, a land of peace, a city of refuge, a place of safety for the saints of the Most High God. And the glory of God shall be there, and the terror of the Lord also shall be there, insomuch that the wicked will not come unto it. And it shall be called Zion. And then here's verse 68. And it shall come to pass among the wicked that every man that will not take his sword against his neighbor must needs flee unto Zion for safety. That's very fitting, right? Because these people that are coming from Afghanistan, they're not staying to fight the Taliban. And interestingly, the Taliban is made up, and I guess like it was started by the Pashtuns. So maybe what we're seeing right now in Afghanistan is their separation of wheat and tares. And the wheat are being harvested. They're being taken out of that country. They're leaving the people that have the more fundamentalist kind of Pharisee type of way about them, and they're unknowingly being led by the Lord, both to temporal freedom, but also to spiritual freedom, as maybe some of them will come in contact either with Judaism, Christianity as a whole, and hopefully our church. It would be amazing. So, yeah. New Jerusalem, of course, that's associated with the New Jerusalem that's going to be here in the Americas. And I think that you could potentially right now apply that to the whole of the United States. Like this is, a very Zion land in terms of the number of saints that are here in the United States. And it has been a place of refuge for many that have immigrated to the United States. So I know that people are going to say, there's some of you that are going to be like, no, this is talking specifically about the actual city of New Jerusalem, and it's going to be during Civil War, where the United States is at civil war, but because of the power, and because the 10 tribes are back that have advanced technology, we're going to be safe, and then no one's going to be able to fight us. And Yeah, okay, maybe. Maybe. I'm not going to say that that's wrong, but I tend to agree with Samra on this one. Um, at least on verse 68. And then she said, "Love it. Can you imagine if their record has been preserved in some way?" This is talking about the Magi, my part three. It only takes one person to hide it away safely. Think of Moroni. That's a really, really good point. Um, there was supposedly a book that was written by the Magi. I cover that in that video, and the people that have studied it don't think that it was actually written by them, but it could be based on real events. So we know that that's potentially some scripture. I think it's called the Book of the Magi or something. I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, if the Pashtuns or any of these other groups were able to maintain their identity for some time and have prophets among them until they apostatized or were conquered by other peoples, there very well could be scriptures right now on the earth hidden somewhere that will eventually come out. So, very good comment. Um, Rita Kus or Riticus 98 says, this is on my Pashtuns video. There's some information somebody wrote down about what Joseph Smith said about the moon colliding with the earth. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. And this is where the lost tribes will come through, and it will be the North Pole or the South Pole. I haven't heard that one. Okay. And I'm not going to write that one off. I'm not going to write that one off either. I would like to see that quote. If you have that source, please leave it in the comments of this video or a future video. Um, that would be quite the quote. And then he or she continues. I'm not sure because of the polar reversals. It talks about it though in Isaiah. It talks about the earth will turn upside down. So you might want to go research and see if you can find that article. Okay, yeah, I'll keep that on my you know um, on my radar, and I'll see if I can find that, and I'll include it in this series that I'm doing. So I appreciate your comment. Um, okay, now on my video titled "LDS View of God's Name Appearing on the Temple Mount's Eastern Wall," and that's the video talking about how there's some vines that are growing right now that spell out the name of God minus the last letter in Hebrew. This is from Educational Video Recordings. They say, on that wall you can see almost any Hebrew Aramaic script word, just like looking at a cloud. If the Almighty wanted the holy name inscribed on that wall, I'm sure it would be like the text on the stones where Moshe, if I'm not mistaken, Moshe is like what they call Moses. That's like a alternative name for Moses that the Jews use. Where Moshe wrote the mitzvot. The danger is that the wall becomes an idol like the ancient Mikdash. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't say for sure if this is a a sign from God. I think it's worth taking note, though. That's why I did the video on it. Um, I do feel like it's close enough, though, because like when you look at the vines and you look at the spacing, it's like it's actual writing. Um, because the letters are like evenly spread apart. Um, I know there was one person when I was doing the research that noted that it looked like a certain type of calligraphy that's used for holy writing. So, you guys, it may be nothing, but it also might be something. I think it's interesting that it's on the eastern wall because that's the side facing the Mount of Olives where Christ is going to return. So, I don't know. We should always just take things like this with a grain of salt because it could be wrong, but I think that we should also take note. On my part three, the Magi and the Pashtuns, Bonnie Nandino says, interesting information. Thank you, Bonnie. Um, on my Sunday morning, October 2021 General Conference video, Ice Cream Lady Driver says, I haven't heard any admonition coming from President Nelson. He has made a suggestion and has not yet said that it was revelation. Uh, I'm assuming that you're talking about getting the vaccine. When he tells me that it came through revelation, then I will consider my choice. So, yeah, she's definitely talking about that. So far, I've only heard that he consulted with his own doctors and scientists and made the decision based on that information. I think I read that on the church website now, but I can't even find the letter, much less the other things I mentioned. That's a valid point. If you're not aware, I was against it too, and I basically still am. I'm just taking faith that that the prophet is guiding us, or like making a recommendation like that through inspiration, even though it may not be tied to salvation. Um, it's a tough one. I'm not going to lie. It's a tough one, but I did, me and my wife, we did get the shot. Uh, we got the Moderna shot in whatever. Okay. Uh, Aritz Lizaraga Olascoaga, my friend from Spain that served in the same mission as me, he says, Steve M. Collins mentions that about the Magi in his book on Parthia, not to be confused with Persia. I don't deny that they might have been from Persia, though. British in Hebrew means people of the covenant. Yeah, I'd actually heard that before, and that's going to be another video I do as part of this series, because I do think that there's a high concentration of Israelite blood among the, especially among the British Isles. Um, so I've heard that in multiple different places, including like documentaries on TV, like the History Channel, and I know that there's a lot of so-called myths or legends that have to do with that. But there might be some truth to it, and we as members of the church would probably have to agree with that, right? Because Joseph Smith, he has English ancestry, and he was a pure Ephraimite. So, and Spain, uh, Aritz, he's from Spain. My mom is from Portugal, so we have kind of that connection. And there's reason to believe that people in the Iberian Peninsula probably have some uh, Jewish DNA in them, because Spain was the location of a pretty sizable population of Jews. They're called the Sephardic Jews. And of course, everybody all throughout the world probably has some DNA, because there's been studies about that, how literally everybody probably has some DNA from Abraham, Isaac, uh, Jacob. But, of course, we're talking about places, countries, populations that probably have much higher um, concentrations of that DNA. And I think Europe, there's probably a lot there. I think that there's certain places in Africa, like Ethiopia and probably Nigeria, Ghana, that have it. Um, of course, the Pashtuns. There's a lot of other populations, and of course the Americas with the Native Americans. Um, so anyway, gonna move on from that. On my video from a while ago called "It's Becoming Easier to Tell the Wheat from the Tares," this is a comment from Kathy Price. Like those not, she says, like those not following the prophet, justifying. Um, I think she's talking about people that don't want to get the vaccine. Gonna get harder, folks. So if you can't do this now, you won't do it later. You can twist his words all you want, but he said it, and I, for one, am doing it. We're in the test, the test, the test. Yeah, I don't know personally if like this is the actual test that's being referred to in that quote. Um, but we're definitely in a time where it can be hard to follow the prophet, not just with the vaccine. And again, that's not necessarily it's not a salvation issue, but there's a lot of people that are clinging on to the philosophies of the world, both on the right and the left. I think there's more issues with uh, philosophies from the left, um, but you can also go too far right and start to do not so great things on that side. Um, you know, we're becoming so divided as not just a country, but also the entire world. I feel like American politics has like now become worldwide politics. There's a lot of YouTubers out there from all different countries, and they're like, whereas this may not have been a thing back in like the 90s, 80s, and before, now it feels like the whole world has become somewhat homogenized in a way politically. And there's definitely big things happening in the world as far as social issues and politics. And it seems like in conference they were hitting on this quite a bit about Benjamin. Go out. Thank you. Just 1 minute. Um, People dividing on certain issues and people adopting, philosophies and ideas that are contrary to the doctrine of the church. Recently, just a couple months ago, we had Elder Holland that went to BYU and basically put them back in line, or like let them know that it wasn't going to be tolerated what a lot of these professors are doing and students that are trying to push things that are contrary to doctrines of the church. And I think a lot of conference was kind of geared toward that. People that are adopting worldly philosophies as like their new religion, and therefore uh, the admonition to look for true doctrine. I can't remember exactly what he said. He said the three things: true revelation, true doctrine, I believe. You get the idea. Um, Kind of like a warning to those that are like out here in worldly philosophy is like, hey, we need to bring it back to truth. So, all right. And then moving on my Magi video, part 3, Betty Horn said, I have to watch this again. Fascinating. And then she laughed out loud on my short that has the rooster and the cats eating the same food, and then the cow coming in and eating that food as well. All right, my dinner's here, and that's all the comments. So keep them coming. I love to hear from you guys. I like to share these ideas and talk about it together. I think it's important to listen to others and what they have to say. Um, and then I'll keep doing more videos. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Hit the notification bell. Leave more comments. And I'll talk to you guys later.